Okay. Sorry, just a minute. Okay, so I'm just going to start. As usual, we're going to just run through introduction of our agenda for today. We've given a few minutes for guests to join. I think that there are a few students that I recognize on the call. So if you're a student and you're on the call, please feel free to write your name and your school and where you're joining us from. So you can say, I'll just say the student I know who is here. I'm Aniesa, I'm in year 11, and I'm joining from Port Harcourt, I believe. So if you could just drop that in the chat, it will also give our speakers like an opportunity to know the students on the call and maybe speak specifically to your situation. So yeah, so thank you for being here today. Thank you especially to our speakers who were here, who were punctual. And so we're going to go swiftly into opening remarks and introduction of Juice. Then we're going to introduce our keynote speakers, Breda and Chukwuebuka. Our third speaker, unfortunately, cannot be here with us today. So we're going to be having two speakers, but you're not missing anything because these two speakers are deeply incredible and you're going to learn a lot from them. So, and then we're going to go into our fireside chat, so which is basically a question and answer session on the importance of holding leadership positions in secondary school. And then we're going to open up the floor to questions, Q&As, if any, and we're going to tell you about our upcoming events and roundup. So, as you know, well, I'll be giving the opening remarks. As you know, I'm Ada Okeke. I'm the founder of Juice Africa. I'm a lawyer, and I also I have a master's in maritime law and maritime economics. So you're going to be hearing a bit about my journey today while I host and also ask the questions of our mentors who are here today. So I'm going to give a quick run through of Juice, why we're here. As I always say, one of the most ubiquitous questions that a secondary school child is asked or a young person is asked is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And often, especially in the Nigerian context, there is not a lot of support to help you get there. There is not a lot of support to, usually it's like, oh, you should be this or you should be that, but there's usually not a lot of like guidance and mentorship. But more than that, there's usually not also a lot of exposure to all the types of careers that exist so that you can choose and pick what you want to do. So basically, that is what JUICE aims to do. We see that there's a career exposure deficit. Basically, what that means is you don't know what careers exist. You know law, you know medicine, you know engineering, maybe you know accounting, and maybe tech. But outside of these five professions, there are so many other professions. I'm really excited about one of our mentors today. He's a medical lab scientist, and a clinical researcher slash clinical researcher. So you're going to hear a bit about what that even is, and then our second mentor today is a lawyer, but she's a lawyer in the media space, right? So you can also get a flavor for what being a lawyer in that space looks like, because law is not just litigation, it's not just going to court. So yeah, so that's what career exposure deficit means. Sometimes you don't know all the careers that exist. But even when you do know the careers that exist, sometimes you don't have the guidance and the mentorship to get to where you want to be. And then many times, because you don't know all the careers, then that means that then many times you're also not prepared adequately to get into the university. A statement we hear a lot in Nigeria is, oh, this is what JAM gave me, so I did it. Okay. Oh, this is what JAM, this is what the school gave me after UTME, so I did it. But with adequate university preparation, with adequate college preparation, you find yourself in a position where that hopefully is not your story. So that's what Juice does. We're an NGO that is dedicated to seeing you as a Nigerian secondary school student pick your career or navigate your career through intentionality so that you intentionally think through it, you intentionally decide what you want to do, you intentionally choose it, as opposed to just, oh, this is, they said I should do this or that, right? So our mission is to build a future with purpose, with clarity, and intentionality. If you're a student here who has been attending many of our sessions, all of this is new to you, but we do it in case there are people who are not familiar with what we do, especially those who will be watching online. So how do you come in? Well, if you're here today, then you're in a good place because, this is how you come in, attend our sessions every 2 weeks, become a mentor, become a sponsor of the work that we do here. You can become a career partner. And what this means is if you own a business, if you own a law firm, if you own a lab, if you own anything, you can support us by partnering with us to give internships of 1 week to secondary school students so that they can get an insight into, oh, this is what this career is about. This is what it is. Tell others about Juice, tell other young people about Juice, tell other secondary school students about Juice, tell other secondary schools about Juice, and tell other parents about Juice. I have to say that one of the questions we get asked the most um, by students is, oh, I want to do this, but my parents want me to do this. I was at a forum recently where I was speaking with parents, and a parent said, oh, my daughter wants to do theater arts. Is this a viable profession? Right. So this it's very important that this conversation we're having it not just with secondary school students, but we're having it with parents, we're having it with educators as well. So that's that. Tell others about Juice and connect with us on our social media, especially our Instagram and our LinkedIn, because you get a lot of information there. So we're going to jump straight into the topic for today, importance of holding leadership positions in secondary schools. I'm going to be introducing very kindly our speakers. Um, so just give me a minute. Um, so Breda is a dual qualified lawyer. She's admitted to practice in both Nigeria and the UK. She currently lives and works in Paris as a group legal counsel for a leading media company. She graduated from University of Abuja with an undergrad. She finished her undergraduate from University of Abuja, and then she has an LLM in International Maritime Law from Swansea University in the UK. And then she also just completed an MBA from HEC Paris. HEC Paris is one of the leading MBA schools in the world, but also in Europe. So Breda is a force of nature. She out in her spare time, outside of work, she loves to hang out with her husband. She likes to travel. She likes to play basketball and watch anime rather. But also she's very passionate about mentoring young people. I have to say, recently I had a call with Breda about some of the things like she said she would like to see more often, taught in secondary schools, as opposed to just math, English, literature. So this type of forum is something she's deeply passionate about, and I'm very excited to have her. Um, on the other hand, hi, Breda.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. On the other hand, we have Ebuka Okeke. I do not have like a whole write-up for him because Epka is my brother, so I'm going to speak straight from experience or from I'm just going to speak about him. So Epka is a clinical researcher slash a medical lab scientist. He's currently based in the US. He completed his secondary school at Igbobi College, um, Lagos, where he held a few leadership positions. Um, before then, he went to the US on a partial scholarship, I believe, to study medical lab. Then he did his master's as well in a similar field. I don't want to I don't want to murder it. But also he did his master's and now he's currently working in the US at a leading medical laboratory company. And I guess outside of work, he likes to chill. He just likes to chill. But he's an incredible person. And I've specifically invited him, not because he's my brother, but because Ibka was very or is, but let me speak specifically because as a secondary school student, what you care about is that journey. But Ebuka, for some reason, was very coordinated as a young person, very into very focused. He knew what he wanted, even from the perspective of like just from perspective of the uni he wanted to apply to, right? I gave a mentorship session to a young person 3 days ago, and I was telling her about how much work is actually involved in trying to get into a university outside of Nigeria, specifically the US, right? And we spoke through the process and all of that. But I'm just saying Epka is interesting because he basically did that process for himself. He did not have anyone guiding him and mentoring him. He just said, you know what, this is what I want to do. And he found his way himself. So I think he's a really good resource to listen to in terms of, how to push and how to find your way. But also, because he found his way himself, that doesn't always mean that you should, if you have the help, of course, take the help. And that's what Juice is here for. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the fireside chat for today. So Brida, if you switch on your camera, please, then I can spotlight you.
Yeah, sure. I didn't, it seems frozen. It was on
Okay. Okay.
earlier. I
I
don't know what's going
think
on. Sorry.
I think yeah, it's maybe if you switch it off and on again. But um
Um, okay, so my entire Zoom just decided to use for some random reason.
okay.
Um,
Well, maybe while we're speaking, you can just try to put it on. But for the meantime, if that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to start today. And I'm going to say also I have to say thank you to Ebuka because he's in the US and his time zone is crazy. It's like 5 a.m. So he's doing this at 5 a.m. So thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to start my questions with saying I'll start with ladies first because it's International Women's Month. So happy international yes, happy International Women's Month to every woman here, every young girl here, every brother to a young girl because you're an ally and you're supportive, and every father to a young girl and every young girl, every woman. So we're going to start with you, Breather, and we're going to say could you tell us a bit about yourself? So maybe starting a bit with your journey in secondary school, then what you do today, and how you got there. So I know I've read your bio a bit, but it would be nice for the kids to hear from you. Thank you. Okay, I think she got kicked out. So my oh, okay, no. Let me see. I think she's here again. Brita, can you,
yeah,
can you
I'm
speak?
back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, no worries. So I was asking if you could tell us about yourself, specifically your journey starting from secondary school, up till today, what you do. And also I'm interested, but also for the secondary school students who are here in what you do for work, right? What the day-to-day life looks like in a very simple way so that they kind of, also relate and get it. Thank you.
Okay. Am I going first or is Ebuka going first?
Oh no, ladies first. It's International Women's Month, so
Okay, sorry. Hi everyone. So my name is Brida Opogunwusiere. I'll start with what I do now. So what I do is I work for one of the largest media companies. It's called Publicis. And my day-to-day job role is ensuring that our different subsidiaries, so subsidiaries are companies that are owned by other companies. And we have a lot of companies around the world. And my job is to make sure that every document that they need to file as a company is properly done and that they're basically compliant with all the rules in the different countries that they exist in. And they also comply with our overall group rules. So that's basically my day-to-day role. As a secondary school student, I did not hold any leadership position until I got to SS3, where I was the treasurer of the debate club. I still don't really consider it to be a leadership position. In terms of secondary schools, I went to three. So I went to boarding house for boarding school for GS1, Regina classes. Then I went to community secondary school where I was a science student, but I really did not want to be a doctor anymore, long story. So I switched schools in SS3 to a school that allowed me combine science and arts courses together. And it was there that I held my first quote-unquote leadership role. But yeah, I'm really glad today to be here to speak with everyone.
thank you, Brida. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that intro. And I'm already going to disagree with you that you do not hold a leadership role. I'm already going
I
to
mean, I'll
disagree.
say traditional positions because I think there are other things you can do outside secondary, formal secondary
Yes,
school. There are other roles you can hold that sort of
yes.
build the leadership skills that you need because you need those leadership skills.
Hmm.
But yeah, so if what I'm saying is like if you're already in secondary school and you haven't been a prefect, you're not head boy, you're not labor prefect, it's fine. Like there are other places you can build these skills
Yeah.
while still being in secondary school. But yeah.
Thank you. I'm excited to hear about this actually. So thank you. So Ebka, we're going to go to you to just tell us a bit. I probably butchered your introduction due to over familiarity, so forgive me. But yeah, you can tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Good early morning over here. Um, as I was introduced, my name is Abuka. I went to secondary school in Ibobi College, Yaba, Lagos. I did hold a few leadership positions, I will say, um, through JS1 to SS2. Which for its own level, I was constantly the class captain or class, whatever we want to call it, class representative, class captain. And then in SS3, I was elected the head boy slash senior prefect. So that was my main, I guess I call that the main leadership position through secondary school. But from JS1 to SS2, it was always class captain, one thing or the other. Then I finished secondary school in Ibobi College and went on to do my A levels at Cambridge College in Ikeja. Finished with that, got admitted into the University of Kentucky to study medical lab science and got a partial scholarship, which covered about three-quarters of my tuition and fees. So that was a substantial amount that actually covered a lot of the tuition and fees and I had to pay at University of Kentucky. Um, Finished my degree there. I were actually worked at the University of Kentucky Medical Center as a medical lab scientist. I was just a generalist. Worked there for about 4 years before deciding I wanted to do a little bit more because through my undergrad, just because my undergrad was so was almost so structured and regimented. I did not have the chance or the opportunity to do a lot more things or explore more paths through my undergrad. So while after I graduated and I was working at the University of Kentucky Medical Center, I wanted to do something different. I was always interested in research, and I didn't get the chance or the time actually to do a lot of it through my undergrad. So I wanted to experience that and see if that's something I would like, I'd be interested in, and then, see where that leads moving forward. So that's when I applied and got into the biomedical sciences program at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital. It is the third ranked children's hospital in all of the United States. The program itself was at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Research Foundation, but it was done in conjunction with the University of Cincinnati. So it's a 2-year master's program, biomedical sciences with a focus on genetic research. Um, Went through that. My thesis was mostly focused on suxten gene protein, and it's basically a protein that's responsible for early embryonic development. I'm not even going to go down that whole route. That'll take a whole nother session to talk through that. But currently, I work for Sysmex. Sysmex is a leading brand in the biomedical device structure environment. We do make reagents and equipment and instruments analyzers for medical labs. And my day-to-day job is going to set it up and train in, the medical lab scientists, the pathologists, the medical directors, how to use our product, giving them the educational resources they need, things like that. In the layman's term, you go to the hospital, you get your blood drawn, or, you have to pee in a cup or anything like that. The analyzers or the machines that are going to run your blood test or run that urine test or whatever they're testing for. So let's say, be it blood sugar or, your cholesterol or whatever it may be, those analyzers that test your blood is what I work on. And like I said, I train the techs and the staff on how to use the instruments. I do all the FDA studies and all the make sure the lab is compliant with FDA regulations and things like that. And yeah, that's about 80-90% of my day to day. The rest of the 10% is just going around and, recruiting potential customers for the company. So that's currently what I do for Sysmex.
Okay. Thank you, Ebuka. Thank you for that very elaborate explanation of what you do and your journey. If I'm told to repeat it, I'll probably butcher it again. So I'm sorry in advance, but I'm going to then just go on to ask you the next question, which is saying that you held like many leadership positions in secondary school. Well, first of all, I'm interested because you said from just one you were a class prefect, right? So I'm interested to know, how was that decision made? Was it something you yourself thought, oh, I see the value in this, so I want to be a class prefect? Or is this something that just fell on you, first of all? But then the second question is, how do you feel that those leadership experiences throughout your secondary school, how do you think, number one, it shaped you while in secondary school? Like, how did it shape you while in secondary school? But outside of secondary school, how do you feel it shaped you? Thank you.
Absolutely. So I would say a lot of the times when I was class captain, it was more of it was entrusted to me as opposed to me saying I want to be class captain. And I definitely think, and that's one of the things I'd want to get into and discuss as we move forward with the fireside chat. I think a lot of times with leadership positions in secondary schools in Nigeria, it's more of a you're assigned and you're appointed mostly because you get good grades. So there's this automatic correlation between being a good student or getting good grades and correlating that with you automatically being the choice for leadership positions. And again, through just 1 to SS2, it's mostly just class captain, which there's not a lot of responsibilities involved in class captain. I'm sure most secondary school students know what it entails. It's usually just making sure whoever teacher's period it is knows it's their time to come to your class. Making sure the class is clean at the end of the day. Um, just minute things like that. So it wasn't any big old responsibility or anything like that. But in general, I would definitely say it did a lot to shape who I am today. Because between that and being a senior prefect, the head boy, I think it taught me to first it taught me to put myself out there or learn to put myself out there. You know what I'm saying? It definitely shaped my life in that way. It also shaped my life in the sense where I feel like I have to take charge of my own life. I have to take charge of my own education. I have to take charge of my own, future, whatever it may be. Because, a lot of times when you're entrusted that role, you kind of have to be that take charge person. You have to be the person that's going to mobilize the rest of your peers, be it you're on the same level, higher, lower, whatever it may be. You have to be that person. So you have to learn to be that action man or woman or lady, basically, where it's just automatic. So I think that definitely led to where I am today because just finishing up secondary school and going through my A levels, I more or less told my parents, "Hey, this is what I want to do. I want to take the SAT. I want to apply to all these schools in America. I want to go to college or university in America." Right? I feel like I would not have gotten not only the confidence, but just the that motivation, and also the ability to take that action and tell them what I want to do. Because we all know with Nigerian parents, it's where they say, "Yeah, you're going to do this." Yes, sir. Yes, ma. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it is. But having all those experiences, I'd say is one of the major factors that led me to be able to take that action and tell them what I want to do and the plan I have for myself in my life. And I'm happy it worked out, right? But I'd say having that leadership position is definitely helped me become the action taker and like the doer. And I think that's one of the good qualities that having those leadership positions early give you for sure.
Thank you, Ebuka. Yeah, I think I'll just give a perspective, then I'll go to the next question with Brita. But yeah, I have to say, so I did not hold any, I held the leadership position of class prefect, but just in senior school. And one thing I have to say that did for me is that it really, really, really built my confidence, right? Um, I think coming from junior school, I was super shy. I was the awkward, awkward kid. Um, this is recorded and it's going to be online for a really long time. So the thing I'm going to say, I'm so embarrassed to say it, but I'm just going to say it, like, I was bedwetting in secondary school up until like senior school. So coming from junior school, being that kid who is bedwetting, nobody looks at you and thinks, oh, this one is, but just being in secondary school and in SS1 for some reason, and being picked for class prefect, and they said, "Oh, Ada should be the class prefect." So I know like the correlation of academics was for sure there, but it just did something for me to look at myself and think, my classmates rate me. My classmates think I'm someone who should take responsibility. And that it was like you said, the responsibilities were not, the responsibilities themselves were not deeply life-changing. But what that did for me as a child, who was the awkward child, who was the there were those terms we had for them in secondary school. What that did for me coming from JSS 1 to JSS 2 and to JSS 3, sorry, from SS1 to 2 to 3, was that it put me in a place where I feel like what I have to say matters, my opinion matters. And that's definitely something interesting and important. So I'm just going to add that. I know you spoke about that, but I'm just going to add that. So Breda, my next question is to you, because you say you don't feel like you held any formal leadership positions in secondary school. So the question is, do you feel that through, especially during secondary school, do you feel like you built these skills from somewhere else? Were there other avenues outside of the formal circle of, classes and all of that you built this? And what were those skills you built? And also, how did they translate into life? I have to say, when we met, you're also one of those very, you're incredibly like, let's do this. You're incredibly like, in fact, like, when we met because we're both about to take an exam,
Yeah.
right? And you just had such an energy, such a passion. And then like when we spoke about your NYSC days and all all the things you were doing during NYC, and me, I was just there like, let me just sign it, yes, and go, but there's definitely there's definitely that element of you that is very like, leadership and take charge prone. So do you feel like you developed any of that through in secondary school, and what were the ways you got there? And especially, how would you advise? Because I know for sure we have two students on the call right now who are already in SS2, year 11, right? And
Yeah.
what that means is, if by now you don't know if you're going to be a class prefect or a school prefect, you're probably not going to be. Let's be honest, right? And it's what it is, right? People who are going to be head boy, head girl, social prefects, dining hall, whatever, they usually already know from maybe like SS1. So from that perspective, I'm very curious about how these two students who I know about
Yeah.
specifically, but I'm sure there are others, how can they then start to position themselves? How can they pick these skills? How can they learn it? So yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm recovering from a flu, so in case I suddenly start coughing, that's the reason for it. So secondary school is very interesting because, like Ebuka mentioned, sometimes you don't volunteer for these positions, they give it to you based on grades. Now, in my first two schools were very large. I mean, just one, I was really tiny. It was boarding school. Nobody was going to give me class prefect. I wasn't outgoing. I was a very, very shy child who just wanted to just, sit in her corner reading her novels. And by the time I moved to a day school, I was a bit more friendly, a bit more outgoing. Um, Average grades still, grades in some subjects, not so great in others. But an overall good student, top average, not bottom average. So, but still good. Now, in large schools, I find a lot of people who may have either sort of benefited from leadership positions, like you did, Ada, or who may be interested in leadership positions, don't really get those positions. A lot of times people who get, social prefect, class captain, are yeah, good students, but also popular students in a way. People the class likes, the class, they crack jokes, they're the popular kid, the cool kid in class. And for other people, it's like, they are somewhere lost in the sea of, oh, everybody else, the popular kids, the awkward, quote unquote, like outcasts, and then there are just people in the middle who they get along with everyone. They're cool, but they don't put themselves out there for anything. So that's kind of where I fell. And we kind of get overlooked, when it comes to being offered leadership positions. Not like I cared, because it was one of those things where if I was assigned a leadership position, I'll be great at it, but I would not volunteer myself for it because, again, why am I taking on extra responsibility? But these skills are skills, they're skills which you have to learn. For instance, problem solving skills, you need to learn them. Conflict resolution skills, you need to learn them. Communication skills, teamwork. These are things which, I feel no matter what point you are in life, you will always have to rely on them. I mean, these are skills which I still use today in my job, and they are skills which you use everywhere, which I think is the point. So for me, I was heavily involved in the church. When I was in secondary school, I think my parents were deacons. My dad was a deacon at the time. So they were part of church leadership. And if you're Nigerian, you kind of know what is expected when your parents are deacons or your parents are pastors. You are involved in everything. If there's a teenagers convention, and my mom also was head of children's department and teenagers department. And my mom likes to do things. She likes children being involved in things. So by having teenagers convention, what does that mean for me as a child? It means I'm running errands for teenagers convention. It means I'm helping people organize dramas, helping people organize dance days, helping people, helping my mom plan the agenda for the day. Okay, no, I think we should do a dance here. Oh no, I think we should do a drama here. I think we should do a break here. And these things really helped shape and help me develop a lot of the skills that I needed because I'm having to work in a team with people. I'm having to help, decorate. I'm having to help people put things together. So I'm solving conflicts. I'm learning people skills. I'm learning teamwork. I'm taking on responsibility, which at the end of the day is really what happens when you get into leadership positions in secondary school. Another place where I really believe I shaped this skill was family. I'm the first girl, and there are six of us. I'm the second child. So this means I have a lot of younger siblings to take care of. And what does that mean practically? It means you have four younger siblings who all want to play the same handheld game. They all want to play the same Game Boy. They all want to play it at the same time. Obviously, that is starting a fight. Now, you're the eldest at home. If my older brother is not there, if he's there, we're both talking about, okay, how do we solve this? But if my older brother is not there, it's me with these kids. And I need to learn how to manage them. I need to learn how to resolve that conflict and say, okay, look, you play for 30 minutes, you 30, 30, 30, and this is how we're going to do it. You haven't done your housework, so you don't get to play right now. Go do your housework first. And I think, these things really gave me these skills that I need, and skills which I still rely upon today. Another good place to learn skills are clubs activities. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, I don't think we have as many clubs as we should. You know, um, most times when schools talk about, oh yeah, we're having extracurricular, it's always extracurricular lesson. It's like, okay, school has closed, here's extra lessons. But I feel like having clubs which don't necessarily have to do with schoolwork really give you an opportunity to use and build a lot of these skills. So yeah, I hope I answered that question for
Yeah,
you.
no, for sure. Thank you. So just to summarize it, you developed these skills in church. And I have to say, in the
Yeah,
Nigerian context, that is really a place many people can as well.
yeah,
You spoke about us not having as many clubs, and it's true. More than as many clubs in Nigeria, we don't have a lot of third spaces. It's either
yeah,
it's church and
yes,
that's it. There is not a lot of like third spaces. The country where I'm based, every Saturday when I went running this morning and I could see parents cycling with their children to football, just random on a Saturday.
yeah,
That's a place they can also learn to pick up skills and all of that. If you can, if your community has it, because I'm aware he's not currently on the call, but I'm aware that we have a football coach who just kind of coaches young children who want to be athletes. But that's also a place, that's a third space that a bit unusual in Nigeria, but it's a third space that exists. But thank you for that. So I'm going to ping pong back to you, Ebuka. Um, like you said, you held a lot of leadership positions. I'm aware that during your time at Igbobi, at some point you got to represent. I don't know whether it was representing your school, but you got to go to China as part of I don't know what that was, but basically, I'm curious to know specifically what opportunities those types of positions opened for you. For example, when you were applying for uni, you mentioned you got a partial scholarship. When you wrote your um there's the essay, the personal statement, the essay, the scholarship essays. Did those types of things feature in it, for example? And even if it did and if it did not, do you think, for example, these type of leadership positions are important with regard to getting into university, getting scholarships? And Brida, I'll also ask you that question because I know you studied in HEC Paris and you got some form of scholarship. And whether or not you even got the scholarship, HEC Paris is one of the most competitive schools in the world to get into. And I know even outside of secondary school, you've held so many leadership positions. So I'm also curious, like, to know whether you think that played a role. Because what I'm trying to get is, will this make a difference for the young people on the school if they're trying to get scholarships and if they're trying to get into universities outside the country? I know of two students within on this call right now who are interested in that, right? So how can this help them as at today, as much as you're aware of? Thank you. So Ipka, you can go first.
Yes, absolutely. So I was the I was almost the quintessential in secondary school. I was like the quintessential go-to for everything. Okay. So even before I was head boy, again, a lot of these things are were based off academics, really. So I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, I actively pursued a lot of these things. A lot of times it was just, oh, Ibuka does good academically, so he would probably do good with insert ABC. But yeah, I mean, I was head of like the debate team, went on several debates. I mean, went on several academic competitions, went on several. My school was Ibobi is a missionary school. It's Anglican Methodist conjunction. Can't say that word. But we had a lot of Bible quizzes and things like that. And every time it comes around, oh, where's Ibuka? Ibuka is going, right? So almost every I guess I'd call them extracurricular activity we had, I was involved in, maybe besides sports. But the thing about Nigeria is sports is if you do anything sports, it's almost considered a riffraff or whatever, which is funny because in America, sports, not just like football, any track, whatever it is, it's one of the like most sought after, highest rated factors into getting college admissions and all these things. But that's beside the point anyway. I would say yes, absolutely. All these things I did definitely played a role in me getting into college in America and getting those scholarships. The trip I took to China, there was this institute in Unilag. It was Confucius Institute. So they did it was like a almost a cultural exchange
Exchange?
program.
Yeah.
Yeah, where well, the equivalent of secondary schools in China, their kids came to Nigeria, and then us from Nigeria, we went to China, and I got that really based off of, I probably say it's mostly academics, but it was also, Ibuka, right? Because Ibuka does everything. Ibuka goes for Ibuka goes for the competitions. Ibuka goes for the quizzes. Ibuka goes for the debate and all of that. But it was also based on the fact that I got the in junior WIAC, I got the best results in junior WIAC. But it's a mixture of everything. But one thing I would say, so to anybody on this call who is thinking of, I can't speak for like UK or any other place. I'll speak most solely for college and university in America. It absolutely counts. Absolutely counts. Because one thing, if there's one thing American colleges want to see, is that you're doing something outside of academics. Okay. To them, it's not all academics. Academics count, absolutely, 100%. But they also want to see that you are involved in other things outside of academics, be it a leadership position, be it you're part of the debate team, whatever it may be, because I think it definitely helps you stand out compared to your peers, compared to, other people. It shows that while you were getting these good grades, or even not necessarily good grades, or average, above average grades, you're also doing all these other things. Okay. It shows that, I'm trying to think of the best way to do it. It shows that you're well-rounded individual.
Rounded.
It shows that you're a well-rounded student because you have your academics, but then you're also able to obtain this like extra set of skills from whatever it is that you may have done. Again, not necessarily like a big leadership position like the head boy or what I was, anything, just something outside of all academics. It definitely helps. So when I was writing out my college application essays, right? These are the things I was listing for them, debates, quiz, this competition, that competition, what I'm saying, going to China, going to represent my school in this, going to represent my school in that. Put all that down. And then I wasn't as informed. I was just putting it to include everything that I did in secondary school. But being here, right, coming here and staying here, just seeing how things work here, they are very, very interested in seeing that you're doing other things. It's not just, oh, study, 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 right? You're seeking out all these other things because it helps. Again, it shows that you have that confidence, like you mentioned, Nada, that confidence is part of it. It shows that you have a personality outside of just books and academics. Not that academics are not important, they're absolutely just as important, but in the same vein, it's also important that you're able to develop that personality outside of just academics. Like, who are you outside of books? Who are you outside of just studying? Like, are you able to hold a conversation with somebody? Are you able to interact with people from different works of life, different facets in life? And all these things come from that exposure that you get from doing all these extracurricular activities. So yes, I always advise anytime somebody is asking me about applying, and I'm sure I'm almost certain it will probably be the same way for applying to colleges or universities in UK or most other countries overseas. It's showing those leadership positions, showing those again all those extracurricular activities. It definitely helps, and like I've mentioned, it distinguishes you from your peers. It'll show that you have a personality, show that you've done other things besides just get good grades. You know what I'm saying? Shows you're well-rounded, and their schools here in America are usually very impressed with whenever you have a lot of that in your resume. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm just going to say something quickly, then I'll pass on the same question to you, Brita. But I want to say that one thing I keep talking about here at Juice is that I'm trying to make the juice child competitive globally. Okay. And what that means is I don't care what we do in Nigeria. When I'm bringing people on the panel to speak and when I'm thinking of what topics we want to have, when I say I mean I and my team. But the point is, we're thinking of what makes sense globally. I think last year we had one of a conversation on how to get scholarships into the US. And one of the things Ebka mentioned here today was sports scholarships, right? It's in Nigeria that we do inter-house sports, and after inter-house sports, you run best runner, you keep it. You don't care to like take it
They'll give
further.
you glucose.
They give you glucose, they give you like best runner in greenhouse, and you're just like, and you're happy. But what you don't know is that there are people who are getting like money to go to school based on that. So please, if as they are speaking today, like I said, you're not already on track to be class prefect, head boy, head girl, but you run well. You like that's what you enjoy. Or you do javelin or shot put. When I was in school, I was very good at shot put. I did not have the sense that that was a thing, you know. But if there is a skill, it doesn't have to be traditional. And I think that's what Brida was trying to speak about. If there is something that shows, oh, you are up for a challenge, you can do, please try to get into it because it doesn't matter what we're doing in Nigeria. I keep saying it. Um, any secondary school child here, you're not competing with your classmates, you're not competing with even Nigerian students. In the world we are today, you're competing with the child in China, with the child in the US, and the child in the UK, and you have to make sure you're just as good or even better, right? So thank you, Ibka, for mentioning that again. I think it reaffirms what we keep trying to say. So Brita, I'll bring that same top question to you about how helpful do you think it is, and how helpful has it been in your own journey?
Um, I mean, I agree with Ebuka in the sense that it is extremely helpful, especially when you are looking for admission outside Nigeria. I mean, when it comes to university admission in Nigeria, Nigeria doesn't care, which is sad. But outside Nigeria, they care. They don't just care, they expect it.
Mm.
I think they just take us like for granted, oh, you must have been involved in something else outside your book. You must have a skill. Like, can you play an instrument? That is a skill.
Mm.
Those are things they want to see. And the things we tend to overlook and just be like, oh yeah, I do it for fun. Or, it's just one of those things I do. So for instance, being actively involved in church and planning things, you're like, they consider it a huge skill. It's, oh, you were able to do this, like you were able to pull off part of the team that planned an event that had 300 people in your church. That is amazing, and we tend to take it sort of for granted. Now, that being said, for me, I went to university in Nigeria. Secondary school for me was about 20 years ago today, or this year, which, gosh. But yeah, sorry, I just realized I'm getting really old. But yeah, university in Nigeria, no one cared. But I was actively involved in things in university in Nigeria. I studied law, which initially wasn't my first choice. I had wanted to be a doctor up until JS3 when I suddenly decided I did not want to spend the rest of my life in the hospital. And my parents could not believe it because that's what I always wanted. So I did a science class for a while. And then, like I mentioned in my introduction, in SS3, I found a school that let me combine science and arts for WAEC. So I picked up fine art literature, dropped to geography and a few other science courses, and kept the main science courses, picked fine art literature, and basically had that as my art courses for school. Um, Now I went into University of Abuja to study law. I really wasn't interested in law, but I really did not know where I was going to from there, because after wanting medicine for so long, I didn't have a further career plan, which is why I think the work Ada is doing is extremely important. Eventually, I did A-levels, to cut a very long story short, because my parents at the time were considering sending us abroad to study, but they changed their mind. And when you're doing A-levels for law, you actually do law. So you do contracts and you do torts and criminal law. And I fell in love with law, literally. So I was happy to go back to school and study law. Now, when it came to, because now I was passionate about it, I ended up becoming a member of a chamber, ended up becoming very, very active in the moot court. Active to the point where I became a senior advocate of LOSAN, which was the student council body. I served on numerous social committees, numerous law dinner committees. I was part of the team that started a magazine in school at a point. I became very, very active, really, in university, simply because I suddenly realized, one, when it came to like legal things and things in the legal department, there are things I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed moot court. I enjoyed, practically having a whole case and building it from scratch with my team and arguing it. And that led to even me becoming the head of the chamber in my fourth and fifth year. And all these things helped because when I was applying for my master's in the UK, these were the things they wanted to see, what have you done besides literally books and education? And it felt good for me to be able to say, oh, I served as a member of the Law Dinner Committee twice, served as a member of Social Committee twice. I headed a chamber in school, introduced a system where people came and talked about one thing that they learned that day to build, public speaking skills in people. I became a senior advocate of LOSAN, and I helped to rewrite the new moot and mock court rules for the school. I was also PRO of the legal clinic. We were involved with inmates in the prison, and we started an initiative to sort of get those who had stayed a long time in prison and their case hadn't progressed to courts, put them in touch with their families and get them free. And these were the things which till today I still talk about, and people still ask for some weird reason, and I still like, oh yeah, I did this, I did that in school. And it really helped because I remember speaking with one of my lecturers when I was doing the master's program, and they loved my profile because I had all these other things outside of school work, that I had done, that I had been involved in. And it made it very attractive to them. And that kind of like set me up also on a tangent for masters, because in master's program, we didn't have as many activities because we're master's students, we're a bit more serious. But when it came to things like competitions, I was active. And I had been active also in competitions during my bachelor's. I had represented the university at IFE. And now competitions in masters, I was equally as active in it. And because of all the things I did, I got selected to go on an exchange, funny enough, with China, a cultural exchange program with Nigerian University in China for a week. And there were only 4 students selected from the entire master's cohort, and I was one of the 4. So these things help. And it's funny because I just recently completed my MBA at HEC Paris, and these were the questions they asked, and not just did they ask, okay, what did you do, but they also ask soft skills. When has been a time where you had to resolve a conflict? Give us an example of a time when you had to work as a team, and give us, one of the most remarkable things that you've done. And one of the most remarkable things that I have done in all the things I've done, still funny enough, comes back to university. When I was PRO of the law clinic, and we were able to set up the prison initiative, and the year after me, like when I was graduating, we were able to secure the release of 36 inmates. It was a hectic period for us in school because, I'm not getting credits for this work. It is not going on my CV. It's not, or rather on my transcript, because again, Nigerian University, it is not going anywhere. It's just, we know what we're doing. We know the need for it. And I had an amazing lecturer, Ma'am Nasir Mukhtar, who, pushed us to do it. And at the time, when I was doing it, I wasn't thinking, oh yeah, this would be looking amazing on my CV. It was only after I had done it and I needed to write a CV, and I'm like, okay, what else did I do that all these things came in? And it's been amazing because every time people ask, I'm like, oh yeah, I did this, this. And they're like, oh, that's really interesting. So yeah, it's extremely, extremely important. It has been extremely valuable. And like Ebuka mentioned, when you're trying to apply, especially to colleges, they want to see what else. It's like your academics is fine. Sometimes they don't even care. It's like, I graduated from university with a tutu, mostly because of a lot of missing scripts that lecturers insisted on the carryover. But, let's leave Nigerian university system aside. And I'm here, like I just finished my MBA from number one business school in Europe. How did I get in? It's all these extra things. So yeah.
Thank you, Brida. That's amazing and that's very insightful. I think I have two questions because I'm trying to get us to finish within the time and maybe give the space for one or two questions if there are any from especially the secondary school students. But I know we've touched on a bit of one of the questions, um, but I would like also more perspective from you guys. So if there is, um, bless you, Brida. Sorry about the cold. So if there is a student here on the call today, right, um, that already is not, has not had the opportunity to hold a lot of, these leadership positions, what's your advice to them today, right? What would you advise them to do? Um, and to where would you advise them? Brida, you speak a lot about the soft skills. Where would you advise them to look? And I wanted to be a bit practical. I really love that you gave the example of church and home, but I want it to be a bit practical in light of what we have in our Nigerian society, right? That's the first question. The second question is, we are in partnership with a few schools. Sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't because of the calendar of the schools. But for example, we're in partnership with Dancehall School, Odogbolu, Ostra, and they rewatch these videos. And one message I keep talking about when I go to these schools is teachers, the school, the educational system getting involved to support these kids. So how can we, as Ebuka has said, he had the luxury of a lot of positions because of his academic perspective. But there's possibly another student who might not be doing as well academically, but who would be an excellent class prefect or an excellent, So how would you advise the educational system to be more inclusive in the making of these leadership positions? I'm just thinking from top of my mind to make like a head boy, head girl system to be anybody can apply, but what other ideas do you have to support our educational system? Maybe the federal government system is a bit regimented, but we have a few private schools who this can really support, right? So I'll start with you, Ebuka, and then we'll go to Breda.
Yeah, from the first question, I'd say one of the, I'd say, easier ways to do it would just try to put yourself within that circle. Try to make friends with those people who are, the outgoing people that seem to be the ones that are getting all the leadership positions or anything it may be. I think really just, first of all, within yourself, try if you're like a introverted person or just somebody who keeps to yourself or anything like that, that's completely fine. A lot of times actually introverted people tend to make really good leaders because they have the ability to listen well. Okay, so just because you're introverted and shy or anything does not mean you can't be a leader or take up in a leadership position or anything like that. That's absolutely false. I definitely believe a lot of the best leaders out there are actually introverts, but when they have to put themselves out there, they do because that's what the job calls for. But just in general, I think, like I said, trying to put yourself within that circle, making friends with those people who are out there, breaking out of your shell a little bit, right? Um, Doing things that which it's a tough question really, because just with the Nigerian system, there's just not a lot of. I'm trying to think of the word to use. It's just not a lot of ways to do that, but I'm trying to think of it in like the most relatable way that you could do this really. And I think really just putting yourself in that circle of people, in that circle of friends, speaking up really to, they say closed mouths don't get fed, right? So always doesn't hurt to speak up for yourself and say, go to whoever it is and say, hey, I think I would um, do a good job with this. I think I will be great with this. And be ready to prove that. Be ready to show that you will do a good job. Be ready with facts and things like that to back up what you're saying. I think that's probably on the bare minimum scale that definitely will at least get you moving. But I really on that question, I really want to, I guess, stress or emphasize the fact that, you know, just because you're a shy person, just because, kind of like Brita mentioned, you're not the most outgoing person or you're a shy person, you're introverted, that does not, negate or remove any possibility that you have of getting involved in, taking leadership positions or whatever it may be. Um, and a lot of times, a lot of times the best leaders are, like I mentioned before, the best leaders are the ones that will listen, that will empathize, right? They're able to take all these things from everybody and then go in and kind of compartmentalize and think about things and try to come up with a solution and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So really, I think again, trying to get within that group of people, trying to put yourself in there, trying to speak up for yourself and ask for these opportunities, right? And even if you fail, it's okay, right? Try again, doesn't hurt, okay? Failure does not necessarily, if you fail the first time you try, does not mean it's not for you. Give it your best shot. You know what I'm saying? Give it your best shot. And then if you fail that first time, try again. And what you want to do is learn from that first failure and be a better person, be a better potential leader, be a potential whatever, whatever it may be. Okay. And then to the second question, I really think, and I think this is something that has come up multiple times with where people that get these leadership positions or anything like that, it's typically the book smarts or I'm saying the academics. I think teachers or whoever it may be in secondary schools need to learn to gauge students' personalities, learn to understand, and I'm trying to think of the other word besides personality, but kind of gauge students beyond academia, because it's not all academia is good, but that's not, in my opinion, it's definitely not the end all be all, really. And I think that's one of the things. Book smart is nice, but also I don't want to say street smarts, but also other smarts are just as good. And I think they need to realize that, get a better understanding of what kids are and how they, and like I said, their personality, how they perform, and use that as a way to pick leaders. Because a kid might be smart or do good in school, does not necessarily mean they're going to be a good leader. Okay. And I will speak for myself. There's been a few times where, not necessarily like the head boy, but even like class captain, sometimes I didn't even want it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's just like, it's Ibuka, okay, Ibuka. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to chill. I'm not even trying to do all these extra things. I just want to do my thing and go. Right. So, and not necessarily, not in saying that I was a bad leader or anything like that, but a lot of times I didn't really care to, but I got it just because it's Ibuka. And was there somebody could there have been somebody in that same class I was that would have done just a good job, possibly a better job than I did? Very much possible. But they didn't get that opportunity because it was Ibuka is going to get everything. So I think it behooves, teachers or management or whatever, whoever in secondary schools in Nigeria, to really try to dig deep beyond academia and try to learn the kids and try to find out what good traits somebody that will make a good leader would have. Try to identify that within the students, and then use that knowledge and let see that potential, and use that to make a decision on appointing leaders. Or maybe it's a kid that, again, they're not the most outgoing person, but you think from watching them and getting a better understanding of who they are, you think that if they get that opportunity, they'll do a good job. Then definitely, right? Try to bring up more people who might not be your quintessential student, might not be your typical person that you get that leadership role. I think it'll definitely go a long way in kind of giving that exposure. So a lot more students, giving them that exposure and just letting them shine within their own little bubble and in their own way. So I think those two things definitely are one of the things to consider for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely agree with that. And um we actually used to have a teacher who used to join the school, and she once asked us a question. I try, but these kids are so shy. So how do I bring them out of their shell and out of their bubble? So but that's to say that what you've said is very pertinent. It's very important for our educational system, the teachers who are here to try. Brita, I'm going to pass on the question to you. Thank you.
So the first question being where to gain these soft skills. I mean, like we said, like Ebuka had mentioned, speak up for yourself in school. I think that's very important. If it's something you are interested in being, you want to be class captain this year, go have a talk with your teacher. Say, please, I want to be class captain this year. I think I would do a really great job, about it. Great job with it. And I think that's very important. But also, my advice would be look at where you are, look at what it is that you do. So there's school, there's also church or mosque, depending on your religion. There are probably other activities you do, even if it's, helping your parents in a shop or helping your parents or babysitting kids, because we do a lot of things as Nigerians that we don't really consider to be important. You know, there are people abroad who apply to school and like their thing is, oh yeah, I've babysitted kids. And they talk about how they have learned skills from babysitting kids. So if you have to babysit your younger ones, it's something you can talk about. The skills you've learned from babysitting your younger ones. We learn things from different places. And I think just being aware of that fact will be very important for us. Like Adam mentioned earlier on in the call, that sometimes, we do inter-house sports and like you're the best sprinter for your club, for your house, and then we forget about it. These are not things to forget about. Look at where you are, look at what it is you do, and then ask yourself, what am I learning from this? You can also ask AI, with your parents' permission, and ask, okay, look, I do this. What skills do you think I've learned? And then see if you've actually learned those skills, and then, begin to like pay attention to, oh, I'm learning teamwork by singing in the choir, because singing in a choir can be very complex. People have different opinions and they want things to go different ways. You're learning how to work together as a team. It is teamwork. So I think paying attention to the skills we pick from all these non-traditional places is important. Like Ebuka mentioned, when it comes to school, speak up for yourself, advocate for yourself. If there is a position you really want and you're sitting down thinking, I don't even think this school knows me. I don't think my lecturers know me. Go introduce yourself. Tell them look, I think I'll do a good job with this. The worst thing that can happen is they tell you no. They don't think so. If you're, but you tried, and who knows? The lecturer might be like, "Why do you think so?" And say, "Oh yeah, because this," and they might actually let you um, have that position because you're passionate about it. Because they don't want someone who, like Ebuka mentioned, has good grades but doesn't really care. So they might give it to you. When it comes to schools, I mean, I understand it gets very tricky because you want these leadership positions exist not just to train students, but also because you actually need to make sure, if it's class captain, that all the lights are turned off at the end of the day, the class is clean, there are specific needs that have to be met, and you meet them through these positions. However, I think, like Ebuka mentioned, understanding the students are very important, but also I think creating roles for students to progress in. This is something I note we don't really do in Nigerian schools. You tend to have a situation where the popular kid is head boy. He has been class captain from JS1 to SS3. Ebuka, no shade whatsoever. Um, he's also the head of the football team. He's also the head of the basketball team. He's also the head of the drama club because they're going to go outside of school to go and do activities, and everybody likes to go outside of school to go and do activities. Like, yes, this person is responsible, but you cannot tell me he's the only responsible person in school. So break up the positions, give other people things, and it's sometimes involves taking a chance on your students. Now, it can be very risky, but a lot of times it pays off because suddenly, like Adam mentioned, it was when she got leadership role that she realized, oh my God, people actually trust me to get something done. So it helps the students as well. But also, you could look into making smaller positions for people. So it's like, head boy comes from SS3. Cool, fine. But you could create something similar, maybe not deputy because everybody knows that's for SS2 students. At least it was at the time. You can make, something similar for JS3 students. That way, there are a lot more roles where people can sort of fit into, and you can get a sense of how the person works. And it also gives the students an opportunity to develop themselves in that role. Sorry, I made notes, and I'm just making sure that I'm saying everything I want to say on it. But yeah, smaller roles for students to work in, I think would be amazing as well. Taking a chance on your students, understanding the students, which is the most fundamental part of things, understanding in a class, understanding that even the class clown that makes everybody laugh can still be responsible in a leadership role. You just have to understand what makes them work and what makes them tick. And sometimes the class clown is a class clown because he doesn't think anybody would trust him with responsibility. So this is his own place, his own thing is to act aloof and carefree. But sometimes trusting students with responsibility, even when they don't seem like they are responsible, goes a long way. Now, additionally, one thing that we don't do, even for the prefects and the leaders, quote unquote, in secondary school, is we don't offer them any form of training. We naturally expect students to be natural leaders. So we go and we pick natural leaders. But this is a skill that is learned. I mean, I finished secondary school at 15. My younger sister finished secondary school at 14. You do not expect kids at this age to have acquired these skills, And by picking only those who are, quote unquote, natural leaders for this position, but making everyone else feel like, look, you guys do not have what it takes. But I feel like having leadership courses or training, even on, okay, how to resolve conflicts, will go a long way in helping everybody know, oh, look, I can actually probably do this. So even a student who is a bit reserved, so has a bit of a self-esteem issue, might feel, oh, I can actually get this job done. And I think that would also help as well. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Brida. Thank you, Ebuka. Like, these are such incredible insights. And as you guys were talking, like, things just kept like flying into my head because, you guys keep resonating the reason for which juice exists. I'm just going to say some quick things based on what you guys have said. Brida, what you said about a lot, like there's no training on leadership, it's absolutely spot on. And actually, later this year, Juice is running a boot camp in August. And one of the things we're going to be training students on is leadership. It's, creative writing, because that's a whole other story. But, writing, presentation, and communication. Then there'll be entrepreneurship training. And at the end of it, we round up with like kind of a Shark Tank pitching style. Basically wrapping it all up, you must be able to present and tell the story and communicate and lead, because it will be in teams, lead in whatever way you put in. So thank you for that. I think definitely if there's a student here who feels like they don't have that leadership skills or even how to speak up, because even that speaking up, it's not super easy. So definitely come August, if you're interested, already contact our admin. If you were able to join this call, then But if not, there will also be our details at the end of this presentation. But one last thing I wanted to talk about is parents. I know there was a parent on this call, Mrs. Ekide, and she's very she's very punctual with these. But one thing I have to say is, as parents, I'll never forget when I told my dad I wanted to study law. He always felt like, oh, medicine. But when we agreed on law, one thing I remember him doing, I can't remember what age I was, but he would drive me to court. He would just drive me to court and leave me there and pick me up around 4 p.m. or so when the court sessions are over. And literally what I would do is to go from one courtroom to another, to another, to another. Parents, you have such a big role to play in supporting your kids. I have so many reservations about summer lessons. You kids finish 3 months school, you put them in another 3 months of summer school. You are wasting the child's time, their intellect and all of that. Look for an opportunity for your child to volunteer over the summer. Okay, there can be a children's home close to them. Tell them that every day my child will show up and help to serve lunch to these kids and help to teach whatever it takes. Make opportunities, support them to take on some of these roles. They can take them to Muson, or if you're in Lagos, Muson, but any other place, let them learn skills and give them opportunities. Even within home, give them opportunities to actually express some of these things. So much as there's a huge role for the school to play, parents, you're not left out. You have to, again, see the natural inclination of your child and give them that opportunity to shine in that natural inclination. When we launch the bootcamp, we'll let you know, but that's a very wonderful opportunity for you to already even expose the child. But after the bootcamp, what you do with that training is what matters the most. How you're able to, let's say in church now, you actually now say, okay, oh yeah, go and join the choir, go and, support your child. And then the last thing I was going to say in this, which has completely flown out of my head now, but basically support your child in that process. And if you're a secondary school child here who is okay, last thing I was going to say is, I'm the queen of going to somebody and saying, oh, can I? And if they say no, I'm like, okay, now no problem. I'm the queen of Ella, does not bother me. You know what we call Ella in Nigeria? It does not bother. It will hurt me. Like, don't get me wrong. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't mind. And even with juice and the running of juice, one thing I tell anybody who wants to volunteer is, if you find opportunities to do stuff in juice that we're already not doing, let me know. If you let me know, run with it. Go and announce, this is me, this is what I'm doing. I'm so excited to announce. Let's own it. If you're a secondary school student here, and I know that we have 2 or 3, and yes, if you already today cannot even find opportunities in quote to lead, you've been joining this call how many sessions? Say to yourself, you know what? By the time I'm graduating from school, I'm going to make sure that there are 10 other students from my school. That is you leading. That is you building teams. That's you doing soft skills. I'm going to make sure that my school is aware of this organization. I'm going to make sure that my children in my church who are like me are able to join this session. And then when you write that on your CV, that when I used to join, there used to be like maybe 10 students. And by the time I'm finishing, there were 50 students, 40 of whom I brought on the call. Easy. Like that's the easiest way to say you're an entrepreneur. You can pitch, you can speak, you are confident. I keep saying it, and I hope I'm not I'm so passionate about this, but it's easy if like Brida and Ibka keep saying, look at where you are today and then try to find your way. Don't always look for if they're not going to give you head boy in terms of the way the school is, no problem. If you're not the social prefect, no problem. But there are so many ways to find what to do and to be amazing at it. Okay, so that's just an encouragement to, the students on this call, and I hope it's helpful to you. So thank you so much, Ebuka and Brida. We had like 100 questions we were going to ask, but I'm going to wrap up here because we're over time. I don't know if there are any students on the call who have questions. If there is any question, you can either raise your hand or drop it in the chat, and then I'm going to take, well, the speakers are going to take it. Are there any questions? Okay, well, I want to believe that they were super explanatory. I'm going to hope that they were super explanatory. But if there are no questions, but thank you everybody for being here. Our next session is next week is Spotlight on Software Engineering. If you've been hearing about tech, and you don't know how to, basically you don't know what is it, what does it mean to be a software engineer? How do I get into software engineering? If I study computer science in school, is that good enough? Or do I need to study engineering? And then how does it all connect? This is your opportunity to listen to a software engineer and then to know how he got there, and then to also know how you can get there on your own journey. Then we have paths to university education in the US, UK, and other countries. Ebka will be coming back again, and we have some other speakers for you. So these are, I'm going to skip through the rest because you're going to see them next week. But that's what we have coming up, not next week, in 2 weeks' time, software engineering. And also, as I advised a student who I was mentoring a few days ago, the fact you want to be a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer does not mean you cannot take an interest into software engineer. The world is no more, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, the world is, I'm a lawyer and I'm this and I'm this and I'm that. I'm a lawyer and I do this and I'm interested in this and I build skills with this. So if don't always feel like, which I think is what happens sometimes. Some students see some professions that are like, this one is not the one I'm interested in, so they don't show up to the call. Please show up to everything because you never know what you learn. I'm still learning from these calls that happen, let alone when you're at that age. So please don't despise or in quote, look at any profession. This is not for me, right? I don't know. I saw something in the chat, but I don't know if that's a question. How do you begin to make yourself known to the whole school so that it's easy for you to campaign during prefectship? Okay, that's a good question. Okay, I'm going to let Brida and Ebuka answer that question, please. Brida, you can go first.
Um, I think the best way is to make friends, say hi to people. I mean, I have thoughts on this whole campaigns and elections for prefectship, but if it's what your school does, I would say make friends in each class. You shouldn't say, oh, look, I'm in SS1 or I'm in SS2. I don't talk to the GS1 students. You First of all, I don't think that's right because, life happens. You should make friends with as many people as you can. But in this case in particular, you need to make friends. So say hi to people in other classes, say hi to people in other sections of school, and just try to be friendly. Remember, not just say hi, but remember their names, so I have conversations with them. You see them passing by, oh, how is this going? How's school going? How, like, are you having any difficulty with any subject? Talk to them about it. Because a lot of times, the younger students as well need, guidance from those in like a more senior class. I remember, I mean, again, probably because I had younger siblings, but I had friends in practically almost all classes because people need help. Sometimes they need guidance. Sometimes it's even as, oh, this is what they cause they are struggling with, and it's something sometimes you can help. I'm like, okay, look, this is how to do this subject and stuff. But yeah, definitely make friends, and that's how people know you, I guess.
Thank you.
Ibuka?
Yeah, no, definitely agree with that. And I agree with you saying that the whole having to campaign for prefectship, I am not a fan of that either. Coming from somebody who had to do that when I was in secondary school, it's that, but that's a whole nother conversation. But definitely agree with you. I'd say just gonna reiterate that point. Try to let your personality shine. Um, Again, breaking if you're like a shy introverted person, break out of your shell, break out of your mode, let that personality shine. And if you if your personality is the right personality for that spot, for that position, let that show, right? And let it show to your peers, juniors, seniors, teachers, right? And don't try to fake a personality, right? Don't try to put on a front. Be who you are, right? But let who you are shine out to others, you know? And just like Brita said, putting yourself in the same company, putting yourself in the same circle, um, with everybody, not just the people in the same grade as you, but your juniors, your seniors, having that welcoming personality where people can come to you. I always prided myself as the person where like I know anybody can come to me and talk to me. When I was in SS2, at just one or just two students can come and talk to me, right? I wouldn't say I was friends with them, but I was very, like, I had very
Approachable?
cordial. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I think that would definitely help, but also just as importantly, be your true self and try to have your true personality shine out. And if it shines out and people who are supposed to be noticing notice it, right, it'll be like a very easy way for them to put you in that path or put yourself in that path. And when the time comes, perfection or whatever it may be, you'll be right in line for it.
Yeah, thank you for that. SLA's hand is raised up, so I'm going to unmute her to speak. But before then, I'll just also contribute to this. Um, so last in January, I was doing a tour of schools, and most of the schools I went to, one thing I've noticed, and it's very synonymous with our culture in Nigeria. When someone asks a question, people don't raise up their hand to speak. Everybody's just quiet till you point, and then that person is forced to speak. I always tell this example on this platform. When I left Nigeria and I went to school in the UK, the school I was in, we were graded not just on academics, but also class participation. So it
Yep.
was number 1 to 7, that's academics, then A to C was class participation. I'll be getting 7C all the time. I'll be like, what do they want me to do? Me, I'm not one of these over-sabi white people that will just put out their hand. That's what I used to think. And then I was looking to get into Oxford, into Cambridge, into some of the top schools in the UK, and my guidance counselor told me that she doesn't think I would make it. And I felt offended then, but now I look at it and she's like, because you don't speak in class. You getting 7C doesn't, it's not a good look because that means you're socially awkward. That means you're not able to communicate. That means you cannot communicate whatever you're writing on paper, you cannot communicate it. And when I was on those school visits, I would ask a question and many times silence. And then sometimes one or twice, a child will put up their hand. And even when they get the question wrong, and this is for teachers who will listen later, I would say clap for him, clap for her, because the person who tried, I know what's in their head more than 1,000 students who don't speak. And that's somebody, if I'm looking to hand do something, I'm like, this person will show up. I give the position to them. So I say this all the time on this platform, but I also think that's what Ebuka and Brida keep saying, put yourself out there. If there is a school meeting and there's someone speaking and they say, who knows this, put your hand up. Attempt, try. And I know how it is. In fact, when there was a student who picked up the mic to speak, and he was so nervous, and he literally could not get the words out. He was shaking and crying. And then students were laughing. And I said, clap for him. That's better to me than the students who were laughing. So I know it's not in our culture. I know it's not, and this is something I feel very passionately about, the culture where we don't encourage young people to speak up. But please learn to speak up. If you have an idea in your head, don't think, is this what this person has in their head? Say, oh, okay, this is what I understand. Is it this? Try. Just try. And at your age, like honestly, you get props for trying more than not trying. That's just the honest truth. So that's something to have in mind. I
Can I
keep saying
just
it. Sorry?
can I just add to that?
Yeah, yes, please.
Yeah,
Oh, please go
sorry.
ahead.
No, because what you said is extremely, extremely, extremely important. And I mean, personally, I'm someone who always participates. It's like that is the one thing you find me doing, participating. I don't care about the exam, I don't care about the test. But you see, class participation, my class participation is always 100%. And personally, I have found that it has really helped me because I have a very, very good relationship with my lecturers. They remember me. They're
Mm,
like my master's lecturers, they remember me. So even though we're all connected on LinkedIn, when I send them a message, they know exactly who I am and they remember me from school. And these are people who teach a class of over 100 students every year. It's a fresh new faces every year, but they still remember me. And it's all because I participate in class. And because I participate in class, when they see me, in the corridors, they want to have a conversation because it's like, oh yeah, I know this girl. She's always, saying something in class. And it's been really helpful, particularly when it comes to referrals.
mhm.
Because sometimes you don't think you need your lecturers and you leave school and then now you need referrals and you're like, I don't know anybody in school who will I reach out to refer me. And you reach out to lecturers and they can't quite place you. But when you participate, they tend to remember you. And it's like you people will sort of become friends in a way that when you're reaching out for referrals, they're more than happy to refer you to
Mhm.
places. So class participation, I cannot overemphasize the importance of it, like at all,
Thank
but yeah.
Thank you for that, Brida. I really appreciate it. So please learn to speak up. Don't be shy. Honestly, whoever laughs at you today, trust me, tomorrow there's something funnier they will laugh about. And I keep saying it, as young people, we think secondary school is so important. When you are, trust me, after secondary school, 2 years in secondary school, nobody cares. Nobody remembers, but more than that, nobody cares. And what everybody then cares about is who has the best this, who is in the best school, who has the best job, who is the most successful. That's honestly. So if you were the child who was seen as the effico, what they now want to see is, does that translate into opportunities for you? And the truth is, the world we live in, I keep saying that you're not competing with your classmates or Nigerians, you're competing with the world. The world we live in rewards people who speak up, people who are open, people who want to learn. Okay. So, SLA, please, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you so much. Good uh, afternoon, everyone. Uh, Thank you for the presentation, and all the speakers were top notch. I'm not a student. I'm a mother of three teenagers, so I always like to join and encourage them to also join whenever they are around. So what I wanted to, it's a contribution, not necessarily a question, and it was what I observed over time. Yeah, okay, so I've always been an advocate of someone that would take leadership role because by virtue of who I am, right from um very little, I've always been pointed out, maybe just because I like to socialize as well. So I encouraged my children to be part of whatever activities in school. So um my children, they were day students. So and they struggle to when they want to take up elections, they struggle to win. So when they got to SS1, by virtue of the nature of my job, I have to put them in a boarding house. And I found out that if I come into the school, I'm looking for them. They already almost every student know who I am. And even before I even say I'm looking for the twins, they say they know me, they'll go and call them. And I'm like, so when I got to them, I was having a conversation with them and I said, how is it that you guys just became popular? They said, because we are borders. And even when they want to have election, they already know they will win one or two positions. Why? Because they observe that after the school time, even if you are not friends with people, but because they stay together, they use one or two things together. They live in the same room. They understand each other's character. Even if they are not friends, they will vote for them when they come out for elections. And the friends of those who are not their friends in day students will help to, campaign for them. So sometimes it's also about, from my own observation, if they are also borders, they have wider circle of friends. They know everything that is happening in the school because by virtue of the fact that they are boarding students. So that's what I also wanted to add and observe. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Miss Cecily. Like incredible contribution and um like this is very I'm really excited when I hear these types of contributions because it's very at the heart of what we keep saying at Juice. Last year we had I can't remember the presentation, but we're talking about networking. And I remember someone asked me, I after the call, is it not too early to start teaching kids about networking? Like all these ones with one link. And I laughed and I said, there is no bigger networking ground than secondary school. Honestly, like you're there, you're eating, you wake up with people, you go to get water, fetch water, with them, you come back, you shout, there is no bigger ground than that. And sometimes, unfortunately, the way the system is arranged, also the way just Nigeria is, day students are different disenfranchised from that community because after school they go home, they have all their parents,
Yeah, yeah.
all those types of things. So um of course, there are many considerations and why parents choose the day life and versus the boarding life. And there are disadvantages too of the boarding school. But truly, what you've said is very important. That connection, that network, even when I think back to my secondary school, many of the day students were not as integrated into the class than others. But we had day students who had ways. There were day students who became the people who would buy things for the boarders from outside of school or who would be the people. So somehow they naturally made friends with those people, or who would be the people to, oh, you're looking for this. Okay, I can try. Like, basically, I had a friend who got her mom to send something to a day student's parents and they brought it to school. Of course, those relationships, you can argue that they are more transactional, not as blah blah, all of that. But I think as a day student, if you're a day student on the call, what you now need to do is that you have to work a bit harder to be friendly, to put yourself out there, all of those things. And if possible, then of course join join the boarding house if it works for you, works for your parents and all of that. But 100% agree with you. That power of the network of being together, interacting, even when you don't want to interact, prep time, you have to interact. Dining hall time, you must interact, and that just builds a community and a camaraderie.
Because I was always asking them, why is it that it's only brothers that become head boy or head girl? They say because they're always together, so they know themselves. And the margin is always very wide when they're having their elections. It's always the brothers that take the leadership, serious leadership positions in the schools.
You can also almost even argue that because they are brothers, there are more opportunities for their classmates to see them in interact with them, therefore see them in positions of, in quotes, leadership. For example, if it's prep time and people are making noise, okay, and there is the border who is the class prefect to say, guys, now, guys, keep it down, that kind of thing. It seems small, but there is that opportunity. I remember the school I went to. I went to Queen's College. When you go to fetch water, steady, a fight will break out at the tap. It's not will it, it's when will it. And there will be this like the person who say, okay, guys, let's like, and sometimes it's not the school, it's not the prefect, it's not the SS. There's someone who is there to do that. So you can almost even argue that naturally there's, of course, it's for students at that age, they are not looking at it as he has exhibited leadership. This is person I see all the time. It's a friendship, it's a popularity contest in quote. But you cannot argue from a more psychological slash perspective that because there are more opportunities for interaction, then there are more opportunities to showcase their character, who they are. Like the speaker said, let your character shine through. They are able to shine forth that character more, for sure. But thank you so much. That's an excellent contribution. I really, really like that. And I think it's a great way to wrap up the conversation for today. Well, very much over time. So apologies to the people on the call, but also to our speakers. But thank you so much for you guys for the insight. As I said before, Brida is someone I have a lot of respect for. I think she's one of the most incredible people I've met, genuinely. Um, like she's just so driven, she's so smart, and not even, she's very smart book-wise, but not even more than book-wise. She's so insightful. And even recently we had a conversation which, just was such a motivation for me. So thank you, Brida.
Thank you so much, Ada. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and Ebuka, I mean, I said he's my younger brother, but he's again one of the smartest people I've met, one of the most insightful people I've met, and somebody whose life and the way he chooses to live life on his terms motivate me so much. Um, yeah, I'm not going to go further, but he's genuinely just such a force of nature. And I'm very privileged to have him as my brother. And that's why he can wake up at 5 a.m. to do this, to do this type of thing for me. But I hope everyone here, especially the students here, I hope you've learned a lot. And I hope especially the students who then listen later, I hope you get a lot of value from this. If you have questions, as always, our email is here and our phone number is here. So feel free to shoot us a text and we will support you further. Other than that, have a lovely weekend, everybody. Thank you for the contributions, especially I love the questions and the contribution. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, sorry. There's someone. Let me stop the recording.